This is Farm Talk. I'm your host, Jordan Hosmer-Henner, and we are here today, joined with our fantastic Farm Talk farmers, Rodney from Blue Lizard Farm in Caliente, Ray Johnson of Custom Gardens, Silver Springs, and Rob Holly Family Farms, out in Dayton. And today we are going to talk sort of a special topic, which is the Southwest Regional Food Business Center Business Builder Grants, and also just sort of generally the food systems needs beyond just individual production. So we're going to be having some discussion about what are the other components that farmers need to have sustainable enterprises, what is lacking in our area, and what could be done potentially through this grant program that would be of benefit to Nevada's farmers and Nevada farms. So real quickly, the Southwest Regional Food Business Center is a USDA grant project where there are 12 regional business centers that are there to provide technical assistance and funding to food system enterprises. And specifically, this is targeting the what's called middle supply chain. So we are not talking about any business that provides services for farmers or anything that improves production or pre-harvest activities. So, nothing pest related or fertilizer or anything like that. It is exclusively about improving the post-harvest ecosystem. So how do we get products to market faster? How do we get value-added products? How do we make the market more successful and the ecosystem more successful? And so what this grant program is going to do is offer two different grant opportunities. The first is going to be a technical assistance program that includes 10 weeks of training and support and a $10,000 award. And so essentially what that means is you provide a letter of intent. Applicants that are aligned with the goals of building resilient food systems, supply chains, will be selected to participate that 10 weeks of training. And after that, they'll receive a $10,000 subaward. That is reimbursable subaward. The second program is a competitive grant program, and that is going to offer up to $50,000 in funding in two grants aimed at improving food processing and distribution capabilities. So the goal is to strengthen the production and delivery systems of small and mid-sized food producers, ensuring that they can scale effectively. And so that is applicable for producer cooperatives, food hubs or aggregators, distributors, processors, producer and manufacturer. And then for both of those programs, I'm sorry, I'll take questions in a second. The priorities on the decision matrix are: one, to address zip codes that are located in distress or at-risk communities. So there is a USDA social vulnerability index that I'm gonna put in the chat. And so this is where USDA, I can make the chat work. USDA is prioritizing those investments. And then secondly, it is priority in area of investment in food processing and distribution, value-added products, transportation and logistics, cooling and or cold storage, and meat harvesting and processing. So that is $50,000 competitive grants. It will be two grants offered this year. So first of all, do we have any questions from the group or from our farm talkers or thoughts about those programs?
This program is the regional program, so it covers California, Nevada, Arizona, and also Utah. Or Utah.
But
okay.
The grants are specific to Nevada. So each of the four states each of the four states is managing their own grant process. They all have separate funding streams. So there is no competition between Utah enterprises and Nevada enterprises.
You muted yourself, Jordan.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say there's no competition between Nevada and Utah producers. I thought finally I got the hang of it. Any other questions or thoughts about what kind of a program or project would be most beneficial in the region?
Well, I can, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry to pop on. I'm just popping in. I'm not a regular here. I am the director of the Reno Mobile Market. Jolene went ahead and pushed me to pop on in here, and I'm so excited to get all of this information. I've been working with Garrett from Ripcord Farm and just touched briefly with Jordan on an idea that we have to create a sort of like a CSA, but just using the local Nevada farmers and creating a sort of coordinated growing schedule with the Reno Mobile Market acting as a hub. So that's kind of why I'm listening in to see if the Reno Mobile Market can maybe work on pursuing this grant with that in mind, and with our Nevada farmers in mind.
Maybe you could tell us what the Reno Mobile Farmers Market is.
I guess that would be helpful. Yeah. So the Reno Mobile Market, we are a branch of the Local Food Network nonprofit, who also is a branch of the Riverside Farmers Market, which maybe you've heard of. We're at Idlewild Park every Sunday. So what the Reno Mobile Market does, we act as a wholesale outlet for small Nevada farmers, maybe folks who don't have enough produce to go to market, or they don't want to do that consumer direct to consumer purchase sale. They're looking for more of a wholesale opportunity. So we buy from all of the farmers here, whatever they have, we buy. And then we also work to fill in the gaps of what can't be grown in Northern Nevada. So we're purchasing from small family farms, organic farms from over the hills, and usually within about 300-mile radius. So we're just kind of filling in the gaps so that folks who go to the farmers market have a broader range of produce to purchase.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Do you have what kind of distribution do you have out of Reno? One question. And the second is, what kind of facilities do you have for warehousing or storing perishables, this type of thing? Third question is, how do we get the products to you? Do you have some type of transportation system or whatever?
Yeah, right now we're a really small program. We're about 4 years in. So we have cold storage at the River School Farm, over off of Mayberry area. So it's a small little cold storage. It's not a big warehouse. Right now, our distribution is just on Sundays. So we have the Riverside Farmers Market, where we have our booth every single Sunday. We have delivery drivers who go out and deliver our like CSA box that we're currently doing right now. A lot of it is being sourced from more regional farms as opposed to local, close to home, hyper local farms in Nevada. And so all of that would be expanded on. All of that would probably be written into the grant. Room for expansion is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and as far as I'm aware, there's no limit on that could be used to fund a vehicle or the IT supplies to make that management happen. So it is fairly flexible on that. The RFA was supposed to be released yesterday, but USDA decided they want to put out a press release on a Friday afternoon instead, which, that's a great idea. Sorry, this is recorded. Sorry, USDA, you're brilliant. So it is going to be on Friday, this Friday, December 6th. with the applications closing probably the first week of February. So that should all be live on the website by this Friday. As far as Ray connecting you to Reno Mobile Market currently, I guess kind of in terms of the crop planning, does anyone else have any experience of kind of this sort of collaborative crop planning? Seen that happen. There's a presentation from a food co-op in Hawaii. It was like a network of food co-ops. So I do think there's some basis for that where different farmers are selecting what they're growing. But I'm curious if our farmers have any thoughts about that, if it'd be workable, what it would require, how much lead time would you need? Rodney, you look deep in thought, so I think you got.
I'm just listening. Sorry.
A little bit different down there in Caliente, but do you collaborate with other individuals to try and make sure you're filling different gaps in?
Yes, I work with Alex Pope that has the store in Mesquite, and fruit of almost every kind is not often available in Nevada. Utah seems to have a good source, and certainly California. And so I can greatly increase the number of people that come to my market table or my market wherever I'm selling online if I have fruit along with my farm vegetables. So he brings in fruit. He buys my greens and beets and whatever I'm growing, and then I buy from him stuff that increases my sales at my tables. So or on my online store. I can't stress enough about co-ops. We don't really have that in Southern Nevada. I know Northern Nevada has some co-ops. And I think that there is value in creating two co-ops that somehow link together somewhere in the middle of the state. We seem to have a pretty empty void between here and Reno with regards to vegetables. And so it's kind of hard to bring stuff down from the north and stuff from the south to the sorry to exchange produce between the northern part of the state and the southern part of the state, which I think there's value in, but economically it's a real challenge with the distances.
Yeah, that is, there's huge distances involved there, so that definitely a challenge. I do also just want to make a note. This is the first of a 4-year cycle, so there will be at least 2, probably 3 additional years of this grant at the same levels of funding. So, if there's an idea like a Vegas co-op or a Reno Vegas connector, a little Cessna to connect that. That's something to think about possibly, getting developed for that second round of funding. Or the other potential, if people are thinking about the $10,000 what's called the technical assistance program, where it's 10 weeks of online training of business development, workshopping on that idea, plus the $10,000 grant. But that could set a project up maybe in a better position to then go after the competitive grant the year following. Any other thoughts from the group on? Oh, Jolene, go. Thank you.
2 things. Lily, and so is Garrett joining today? Is he going to make it?
He's got farming to do.
all good. It was his idea, right? Is that fair to say? Not that it matters, but so that's kind of why we're all here, is because Garrett was thinking about doing a CSA. And then was realizing that in order to do all the different types of vegetables that people want with the diversity, that it wasn't as efficient. And so I kind of wanted Courtney to speak about her experience with doing the premise CSA. That's one thing. Then the other thing I wanted to mention is that so then Garrett and Lily were meeting, and then Lily was like, "Ooh, I want to write a grant for this." Am I understanding it correctly? Like to do this exact thing, Garrett? Okay. So then the funding idea came in through this regional Southwest thing that Anna's a part of. But then there's also the funding stream through the specialty crop grant. And so I just wanted to mention that to everybody really, and to see if there was experience or ideas or intuition or if they thought that one funding source was a better one for this specific idea, and maybe kind of talk shop a little bit about that for Lily, because I have a little bit of experience with specialty crop stuff, but this new opportunity through the Southwest Regional thing is completely new. So I don't know, so I just want to set the community up for success. And does anybody have any thoughts about if a specialty crop grant might be a good fit for this? And having Courtney speak a little bit to doing a CSA as a single farm, and if she's interested or they're interested in participating in a group CSA. I kind of wanted to, and I don't think there's any definitive answers that need to be happening, but I feel like maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, but Ray and Courtney probably have the most experience with doing a CSA.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm gonna turn off my camera really quick because my Wi-Fi is acting up, so I think I'll have better success.
Mine was too. That's why I was late, is because I couldn't get my Wi-Fi to
yeah.
work.
Yeah, I think we're in the same area too, so that
Yeah.
makes sense. But hopefully this is helpful because I keep glitching out. But yeah, when Garrett originally approached David and I, it was probably this time last year, honestly, because he'd been working on stuff. His main goal with it though was to kind of reduce the stress on farmers providing like an array of vegetables, and like really just honing in on certain vegetables and kind of spreading the love that way. For us, like that main concern was we are in, maybe down the road we'll do something like that, but right now we are focusing on a lot of different vegetables because that is our interest, and we want to be experimenting with more instead of less. So I think he was kind of coming at it from a way of, how do I produce a CSA and also attack this, like bigger issue of farmers stressing over all of these different types of specialty crops, and how do we like lessen the stress on farmers in general. So I think it's since changed since he has kind of decided to leave that idea behind, but it sounds like now it's picking back up with Lily. But it is, as a farmer who is, running a CSA, a 50-person plus CSA, there is always concern with how much of one crop that you have to put into a CSA every single week for 18 weeks. And we've kind of addressed that issue of having 50 plus of one vegetable by having different sizes of CSAs. And I'm kind of just sharing this just to maybe spark some interest, or I don't know, some ideas for you, Lily, on what would work financially and what doesn't work. And with the 3 different sizes that we offered, what we noticed this year is that it really gave us flexibility on filling boxes. So if one crop failed, we weren't, SOL on giving these people, what they paid for and what they asked for. Of course, they're, OG CSAs. It's, a CSA you buy into to basically support the farmer, not necessarily always receiving everything that you had hoped for. So there is kind of like a social educational piece there. But yeah, I think the different sizes really helped us with that, not relying on certain crops to be successful every single week. And yeah, that's kind of just our experience as far as this past year went with the new sizes.
I could weigh in a little bit if this is a good time. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So I'm Jill with DFI, and I just wanted to share a few thoughts about this. I'm excited about this idea of pursuing farmer collectives or cooperatives, whether that's a CSA or not, that help get small farms better returns, right, in general. And so DFI is really focusing our entire involvement in this regional food business center on how, directing as much of that funding we can as possible to small farm businesses. So it can't be anything on the production side, but it can certainly, and I'm sorry, Jordan, if I missed you already saying this in the beginning. Maybe I'm just reiterating it, but yeah, it can't be on the production side, but there's a lot we could do with this funding on the, post-production to market side. So that's just the role that DFI will play in this will really focus around that. And so it's great to hear some of your ideas already. And we're here to support small farms and collective CSAs, Reno Mobile Market, in getting those funds. We don't want to see all of this money go to, for example, food businesses in Nevada that are creating a product from raw materials, produce or grains, whatever it is, that are coming from out of state. The biggest export from Nevada is coffee, right? Because it's roasted here, but it's not grown here, obviously. So just some context on that. And then just kind of in general around small farm economic viability. And this is kind of contrary to the path you're trying out, Courtney. Is DFI used to grow 90 crop varieties, and now we're down to 10 to 12, and really focusing on refining our growing practices, farming practices, to make sure we're getting the highest yields possible. And that's through, can be through grafting, can be through how we're managing the soil, precision irrigation. So trying out that path, kind of like what some of y'all from Northern Nevada would remember, Dayton Valley aquaponics, right? They would come to farmers markets with 2 products, fish and tomatoes. Oh, and cucumbers, sorry, 3. And were really successful until COVID. So I'm thinking a lot about that, and in general want to see how we can get farms a better return for all of this, the time, resources, labor, sweat and tears that go into bringing those products to market. So I really like, Lily, the service you're providing to small farms is amazing. Through Reno Mobile Market, when it's really hard to find those buyers and you don't have the time to be at a farmer's market. But, and I know you're paying higher wholesale prices than even the co-op, which pays pretty good for wholesale. That how we can even push that limit so that it's possible to run a collective like that. And then also, have farms take home the majority of the return, right? Just some thoughts from DFI.
Yeah,
Jordan?
thank you. I think it could look a different way too. Like if CSA is tricky, like Courtney was saying, ensuring we have like 50 boxes per week for however long the season is. Maybe it could look more just like a wholesale outlet, like we currently work with Rooted Farms through DFI. We just take what they have. So then there's less of that stress of like, oh, I'm not going to be able to meet that goal. Oh, this crop is growing slower. There's been a pest problem, this, that, or the other. So however it ends up looking, I do think there is some opportunity for collaboration. And Ray, what were you saying? Sorry, I jumped on you.
Well, that's it. Okay. I got a couple more questions for you. I'm hearing the word CSA boxes. Seems to be one big part of it, and the other is you're buying your food wholesale. Those two areas, my questions, I guess, would be, do you have kind of a general list of what vegetables you would like to receive from a local farmer per se? And number two, what's the basis of the wholesale price? What index do you use or whatever?
Well, I don't have a list of produce that I'm looking for. I'm just looking to provide a wholesale outlet for whatever our local farmers are already growing, whatever they're already comfortable growing. I don't want to, be dictating who grows what, just offering a outlet for wholesale sales. And then as far as the pricing goes, the model I've been doing is just letting the farmers set their prices, and then we purchase it for those prices, and then we mark it up at the market, whatever that percentage markup is that we're doing on that specific veg or fruit. And then they sell, especially when they're hyper local. We have a lot of foot traffic at the market. I haven't had any problem with excess veg, especially excess hyper local veg or fruit. So that's kind of what I've been doing right now. Just letting the farmers set the price, and it seems to be working well. I know Garrett was happy about it. And then we can just continue that mutually beneficial relationship, because Reno Mobile Market's a nonprofit. Our goal is just to support the farmer. So as far as the, profit margin, we are a little bit more flexible than some other models.
Sorry, go ahead, Ray.
That seems pretty loosey-goosey.
Well, hopefully with, some time to get those details down and get more of a structure with it. But that's what I've been doing this past year. I took over the program just over 6 months ago now. So it was kind of a learning curve, but it seems to be going well. I mean, we're able to pay the farmers well, and then we make that slight profit margin, which is covering all of our overhead costs. So obviously adjusting as needed, but that's what we've been doing this past season.
Well, and I
Thank
think
you.
flexibility is the biggest part of why this program is so successful, is because, well, and even when you said, Lily, maybe we're not taking a certain amount of one specific produce, like you even mentioning that puts a lot less pressure on a farmer. And that is why this whole program is here to exist, is so these farmers don't have to show up at farmers market and put in all the labor and all the time that goes into prepping a stand to sell there. Like, you are that face for them, and they just have to make sure they get you the produce that they're selling you. I think so just to reiterate again, like, the flexibility, I think, is the best part of that program, and how it's going to be successful in order to support farmers. So I just wanted to mention that. Another thing I wanted to mention, just like as a farmer who sells produce to you and to other wholesale accounts, whether it's restaurants or, grocery stores, is that, in a hard season, like we had a pretty rough season this year. And so going wholesale it's really tricky, because, we can get full price for our produce when we are at market and we are selling it ourselves, or selling it through our online channels. We're getting at least 20 to 25% more than selling it wholesale. And it's a tricky balance every single week with, like, what we're harvesting versus, what we're selling and who we're selling it to. The only thing that I'm thinking in the back of my head as a farmer who sells to this program and sells to other restaurants like it, is maybe like because the CSA is a flat fee typically. And that flat fee, you are obviously are receiving produce, a certain amount of produce for that fee as a customer. But big picture, like the reasons behind a CSA, like I feel like there's something where we could develop this program and have it come full circle to even support more farmers, and just not the way that they're just selling produce to you, but maybe a part of the fee, you know, goes to a certain farm every month or whatever. And like $5 of the customer's fee is feeding back into a larger fund of money to like go back to a farm for whatever reason. Almost like a roundup program, almost like and then that way it comes a little bit more full circle than you just buying wholesale from these farmers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is, but that just came up when we were talking. So I just wanted to put it out there.
Yeah, room for growth with that. I think that's an interesting idea as well.
Just a larger reason as to why this CSA exists through Reno Mobile Market instead of just like the buying and selling portions of it, I guess.
Yeah,
How do we help you expand? Ely is a food desert. When I do get to go up there, maybe a couple times a year, all people do is complain about the rallies of produce that is there. I imagine Elko is something similar. This would be a kind of a circle route from the Reno area, where you could reach down to purchase from me and then hit these other small communities that really need produce.
I love that idea. My background is in nutrition science and a lot of community health initiatives, good stuff like that. And food deserts was one of my bigger areas of study. Probably down the line, right? Once we hopefully establish a little bit something bigger here, we can slowly but surely grow. But I do love the idea. I mean, we're called the Reno Mobile Market. When the program was initially started, we had multiple pickup sites, multiple drop-off sites. So I think that's something to think about as well. And maybe, like Jordan was saying, there's different phases of this grant. Maybe that is a bigger phase down the line. But I love the idea of incorporating the wider amount of Nevada into this program to address those food security issues, the food desert issues. That's something big, and that's always on my mind as well. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I have a relationship with the Shoshone tribe in Ely, and they let me set up next to their gas station. They love to have me come. They advertise to all of their tribal members, and so we usually get good turnout. I have a hard time farming and doing the markets. That's always a challenge. Farmers need to farm, transportation people need to transport, and CSAs like what you're offering need to sell the product to the public. So I think that's the wisest way to go.
I appreciate that insight. That is a good idea. Thank you. Yeah.
I would also say there might be some opportunity in the grant to plan for those kind of resources that are useful statewide, whether that's like the point of sale system or the retail connection that could then be used for a group down, connecting Caliente to north. Julian, it looked like you wanted to jump on.
Do Jordan and Anna, do you guys have a good read as to if you think the specialty crop one would be good for her to pursue, or are you feeling the Southwest Regional one?
So I just got the specialty crop grant. It is only 5,000, and it is limited this year. There are new constraints on what it is able to fund. That's what I was in media with NDA yesterday, yesterday. And so I'm not sure that would be applicable for this.
Lily, were you thinking of wanting more than that? Just,
No, and I'm flexible with, I feel like starting small, especially since this is a new project for me. I think starting small and then growing from there is usually the best move. But I'm open to, feedback from folks who have a little bit more experience with it.
what I wanted to offer is that I was just going to share all of the specialty crop grants that I've written and was going to give them to Lily so she had like kind of reference. Is that legal to do, right? That's all right.
So public information.
Yeah, so because she hasn't written one before, and I think with grants it's all kind of like it's like a different language, and we don't know if we speak it or write it, right? But so I was going to offer that to you. Could she do both potentially? Is that a good idea? Is that too much work? Is that, because I think the specialty crop grant is a little bit, it's kind of a lot of admin, there's like the reporting requirements and stuff, and it's nothing crazy. It's just that there's like the request for reimbursements, and it is like hear me say that it is like a thing to take on. It's not like super easy peasy. It is time, to get the money. There is like kind of,
I think just something to kind of add to think about is with this grant that's coming through the Southwest Regional Food Business Center is that it's more the end product. So, it's to help build your business. So for all of our farmers that are on here, it's taking your end product and getting it to the consumer. And as Jordan stated at the very beginning, it really is for or their focus is really to address those distressed communities, which is why he shared the link. So as you're thinking about what you're wanting to do, is it going to support those different distressed communities? And I looked through the map just trying to figure out where those distressed communities are. And some of the areas that Rodney's talking about definitely fall on that map. But there is a lot of the Reno Sparks area that wouldn't necessarily fall within that map. So that is an important piece to think about when it comes to the Southwest Regional Food Business Grant, is that they really are wanting to serve that distressed community.
So how is this? I mean, does each of the farms can apply for this $50,000 grant? Do we apply for it as a group? Obviously, as a group, $50,000 is not going to go very far. But if 4 or 5 farms across the state are applying for this, and we basically have a similar goals in mind, that's a lot more money to work with. So I guess.
So
how was this distributed?
there are 2 grants that are going to be awarded, 2 of those $50,000 grants. So different farm, if it was a distinct project, different farms could apply.
Oh, so there's only 2 $50,000 grants available, is what you're saying?
This year, yes.
Okay.
But to the project that Lillian's working on, if she were to coordinate with all of you guys and say, okay, this is what I want to coordinate to have this grant funding go towards, that might be a way for her to utilize it and then also incorporate that distressed communities aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I see that.
and then are there people on the call right now that would be interested in participating as farmers with Lily's CSA, like Ray, Rob?
I am. I want to push her to start this direction right away.
Well, I feel like we need to have like a Caliente mobile market, or like,
Oh, I'm okay with splitting that up. We already kind of have that. We just need more support. It's just left to Alex and I, and we really need a third person to kind of administer our activities.
what if you and Alex were like one of a secondary grant, or like a group that wrote a grant for the Southwest Regional and wrote in to find that admin help or that infrastructure? Because that's Lily's job, is to aggregate, and she brings in fruit from California, exactly what you were saying, because fruit brings more people to the yard, it's like ice cream.
Yeah.
There's that song. Ice cream brings all the boys to the yard. But point being, right now, I'm just being honest. I don't think right now Lily can stretch all the way to Southern Nevada. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that an effort like Lily's could be duplicated and be done in Southern Nevada. And Rodney, if you already have the 2-prong approach and you're looking for a trifecta of a tripod, the grant could be written to find a person like that. And maybe this opportunity is Lily is that person, and she can help you articulate the role and the job that she does, so you can sound really smart to the grant in terms of knowing what you actually like, what you need. Just an idea.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. The one thing that I have a question on is, and is the trends going back towards a CSA idea? Because I thought my understanding is that people weren't excited about CSAs anymore, and the trend was going another direction for sales.
My opinion is that Lily kind of does both, because she offers like a market box, which is kind of like a CSA, and then she has a booth at this farmer's market, which she gets fruit in from out of state and other produce in the slower season, etc. Right? So people can order this weekly box, but her dream or her idea is to bring more local goods into the local box. Am I summarizing that?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it's like you can, with like today's marketplace, you can kind of do both, and you can kind of market it in a way so that the consumer can choose, and it's not that much additional work for you to have those two or those various options, if you will, you know?
Yeah, some folks really like it. They like to experiment around with what they get. They like the surprise, and then some folks want to come and shop. So I think having options for both is good, is at least what we do at the Reno spot.
Lily, what is the biggest pain point as far as like for you sitting in your chair trying to get more hyper local food? What is the biggest pain point for you right now?
Just that there's not so many farmers, you know. I think this last season we were only working with 3 or 4 hyper local farmers in the region. So just figuring out how to increase that amount, increase our reach. And Ray, I don't think I answered your last question, how farmers are getting us the produce. So right now we're just having them drop it off at cold storage at some point before our Sunday markets. So maybe that's a way that we could increase the amount of local farmers too. I know that even just dropping it off somewhere like in Reno, if you're not very local, is an inconvenience. So maybe having that in mind as well. But yeah, just the lack of hyper local farmers. You know, we want to be supporting these small Nevada farmers, but a lot of the times we're having to source from more regional partners because of the availability.
And it's not necessarily a communication issue or connecting with farmers. It's literally just the lack of farmers.
There just
correct?
aren't any. Yeah,
Okay.
there just aren't, you know, any beyond
Yeah.
what we've been working with as far as I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Lily,
So maybe, sorry.
go ahead.
So maybe, you know, like that bigger full circle idea that I was talking about earlier, maybe that's kind of where the grant hits, is like, you know, if we're putting a certain percentage of funds to start new farms, to incubate new farms and support, because like at the end of the day, we all know that in order to start a farm, it costs a lot of money. So if this program exists to try and support the quote unquote lack of farmers, then that kind of gives you a full circle reason in your grant, at least one other point to hit, because that is the biggest pain point for you currently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, right, DFI, you guys do something like that. That's what Matt is doing there at Rooted Farms, is kind of that like incubation farm, right? So you guys, are you doing something different in the next season of things, I think is what Garrett mentioned, Jill?
We'll have another 2 incubators we expect next year. So Matt will be with us this year, and then in the fall, the 2 new apprentices are both currently planning to stay on and run incubators. So yeah, the idea is we'll continue this program one way or another. The question I wanted to ask earlier is, Lily, have you tried reaching out to do advanced planning, like crop planning, and I know this came up earlier in the conversation, but kind of like the co-op does gap planning and then contracting with local farms at a certain price point.
We
And
haven't done
then-
any of that. No, that's something that me and Garrett were touching on as well. I don't want to be the one setting the wholesale price point, especially as a nonprofit. I feel really comfortable about the farmer setting the price, and then we will, increase the retail price from there. Like I said, we don't have any problem moving the produce, even if it's priced a bit higher, because people are understanding it's hyper local and they understand the, trials and tribulations that go along with growing here in the Nevada high desert. So more coordination, I think, is definitely needed, working with those farmers. But then, like Courtney said, I don't want to add extra stress, as in like meeting this quota in order to fulfill this contract type of thing. So that's something I want to think about as well.
Well, I mean, I think it's a great thing. You're working with Veritable, right, to order in?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's great. You always have that backup, right? And if that was part of the discussion, the farmer's still setting their price, but then they're actually growing for your market rather than sending you stuff they don't have a market for, or that they hadn't planned on, or they have a bigger yield than they thought they would. I think you'll get more local produce that way.
Okay. Yeah. Wonderful. Those are good thoughts.
Is it something that could be done where the apprentices get to sell food through the market? I mean, is that like too much to ask? Or it seems to me like the Reno Mobile Market is kind of a soft space, like a safe space to get started.
We got a lot of produce from Matt this last season, and I know he's going to continue having some winter goodies for us. So whenever he reaches out, we'll go ahead and purchase from him. But yes, absolutely, having the Reno Mobile Market as a purchaser for those incubation farms, I think is beneficial for everybody.
Jordan?
Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
A couple things. I'm interested in supplying that her needs, because I don't see Home Feeds Nevada going next year. I could be surprised, but I'm looking for an outlet to sell my produce to. And second, you mentioned something about a specialty crop grant limited to $5,000 per.
That is what I heard from NDA staff on a call yesterday. I've just been reading the RFA that is out. It is a letter of intent by the 16th. They don't say anything about that $5,000 cap. So I'm not sure if that's just an internal cap or I've been misled by Mary Kate, but I don't think so. I think that is just it is a pretty small funding pool. And so they're trying to get that spread across to as many people as possible.
Well, $267,000 is not very much. I think that's their total.
Yeah,
I
that is
understand
the
that. But a limit of 5,000, that's a joke.
Yeah.
In today's world. I don't have an expense under $100. It seems like for any repair or anything I buy anymore. The days of, 10, 20, $50 are gone. Everything starts at 100 and goes up. And I think everybody else is experiencing the same thing. NDA is a governmental entity. I don't think they live in the real world sometimes. And any input that you could jab them with would be appreciated.
I will let them know.
What was the logic
yeah.
there? Because it used to be a limit of 20,000, and that was kind of pushed back against because that we
That's so
don't.
small. Yeah, I'm not sure. It just came out that they are not. It seems kind of counterintuitive because it sounded like they're not anticipating a lot of applications because it's only 5,000, and it's only 5,000 because they were trying to get more applications. So, sort of seems like it's backfired. But
It's going to have the opposite effect.
yeah.
Yeah.
And have they found funding for the Home Feed Nevada program for this coming year?
That would have to be through general funds. It does not look like there's going to be any federal funding on that. Hypothetically, if a bill gets passed in the next month, there is fun. Yeah, Anna is rightfully shaking your head. Yeah, so that's not going to happen. But hypothetically, there could be money in the it's the local agricultural. I'm forgetting the acronym, but there could be money for that, but that won't come through anytime soon. So Home Feeds Nevada, if it does get funded, would likely get funded out of general funds, which luckily for anyone who watched the economic forum yesterday, we did get an announcement of, I think it's a, once again, record like $12 billion of revenue for the state. So at least in theory, the state is looking pretty good. Yeah, Anna?
I just wanted to speak up about the Home Feeds Nevada program because I went to the governor's conference last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. And the gentleman that kind of oversees that program for the state said that even with the farm bill definitely not getting passed before the new administration takes place, he is going to be pushing really hard to continue that program because he knows how valuable it is to all the small farmers. So don't give up hope, Ray. There is a possibility that somehow they will keep it going. He really wants to push for that. And then the other thing I just wanted to say really quick is something to think about, because you do have a lot of people that aren't Reno local saying they're interested in what you're doing, Lily, is part of this grant funding could maybe go towards, I know it would be more expensive than $50,000, but a mobile cold storage truck or
That's what I had in
something.
my head as well when Rodney started mentioning like the circuit. I was like, oh, so like big dreams, but I do like that path, and I just really like the opportunity to bring fresh produce to some of those food deserts.
There are other options besides a big expensive truck. I have a 20-foot trailer and I have half of it turned into a cold storage unit, and I just have a generator in my diesel pickup truck, and I pull that around. That could easily be expanded to the full 20 feet. So that's a much cheaper option. And then, I mean, quite frankly, you could do with a trailer or trailers, you could do, meet halfway and get the trailer moved around potentially by the farmers. Um, so you drop it off at one point and then the farmer brings it further south, and then I fill it and take it, to a spot and drop it off that has electricity that can be plugged in, and then somebody comes picks it up. So that might be an option for moving product.
Yeah, lots of different, that's another good idea. Yeah, it could look a lot of different ways, and I'm not stuck in one way of it looking, just wanting it to be impactful for our local Nevada farmers and for the folks looking for fresh produce, bringing everyone together.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, I think we were having the discussion last, or I guess 3 weeks ago now, about how there used to be someone with a truck that would drive around and pick it up and take it out, and that is lacking currently. So if this money could go to support that, that'd be terrific.
We actually wrote a grant, a specialty crop block grant, like 5 years ago, maybe, just about distribution. So with Fallon Food Hub, and it was kind of setting up a transit system for produce. So Found Food Hub had their loops that they were going on. DFI had our loops that we were going on, and we were basically passing produce from one loop to the next to get it where it needed to go without building really a new system or buying new vehicles. It was just sort of like coordinating the existing vehicles and still do things like that with like Ray. We had apprentices that were going out to his farm, bring his produce into Reno, so he didn't have to make that drive last summer. So
Did
there's
that
some, I
get
think there's some really
funded?
like creative ways we could do this, you know?
Another way that I have thought about is have cold storage units and locations. And so let's say you have one in Ely, and the produce gets dropped off there at that cold storage box, whatever you want to call it. And then you have somebody that's local there that would be in charge of distributing the CSA boxes or however the program is going to be. And then that way farmers would have an in-between spot to, you know, meet from one side or the other on the alongside the highway to drop off produce, and it could then be moved across the state as cold storage vehicles move. Just gives extra flexibility.
A lot of really good ideas here. Just want to take a couple more minutes. If anyone's got anything, you know, burning question or left field kind of idea, thought, suggestion, want to bring up. Yeah, Jolene?
When is there a letter of intent due, and when's the grant application due?
So for the specialty crop grant, there is a letter of intent by December 16th. I'll drop that in the chat. And then for the Food Business Center grant, and the specialty crop grant might be more interesting to you, Rodney, because it does give you some ability to go specifically to distribution. The Regional Food Business Center grant, that is going to open for application on December 6th, this Friday. Press release will go out there. I'll make sure that gets distributed to everybody. And then that will be due for consideration like January 31st or February 3rd. So we'll have most of December and January to put those applications together. We can definitely take a look at that either individually or as a group, you know, provide any sort of feedback on that. So yeah, happy to write, you know, comments, edit, all of that.
Cool.
Great. And so that link to the Southwest Regional Food Business Center that's in the chat, that will have the RFA on the 6th when that is live.